I think I did it. It says recording pending. I went under those three little dots.
Yes, that's right.
And
See,
then
and
it
I
said, okay.
Okay, yeah, it says it's being recorded now. Okay. So I got that message. That's great. Jean, do you have the disclaimer that the governor issued last year that allows us to do this remotely in lieu of a public meeting and in person?
I do.
Can you read that? Could you read that, please?
Consistent with Governor Baker's executive order, March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as a result of the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Roll call was taken. So I have written down everybody that is on. I can see Nick, Norm, John, Heather, Ann Mays, Kim, and you.
Great.
And Mike's here.
Great.
Okay.
It's not fair. Mike gets to piggyback on your.
I know, he's just as
Yeah.
happy. He can
Yeah,
wear
I know he's happy. I can hear him laughing there in the background. But we know you're there, so.
He's here. You'll find out as soon as you say something that he has a comment on.
Oh, I'm familiar with that.
Mm.
I am okay. If everybody's okay, maybe Ann, thank you for coming. Maybe we can go to your articles. I'm trying to open up the spreadsheet.
Say over here that they're PC. There's no, so there's no notations on the article. That's
Right. I have.
yellow. Yeah. Is it only one article?
No, there's a bunch. Starts with Article 17.
Okay. Okay, and I have that right here.
I'm trying to blow it up a little bit now. Hi, Ann, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Great. So we're starting with Article 17.
So small.
The land bank, right? I'm trying to find the magnifier here.
I did send it out to everybody, and just as an FYI ahead of time, we are going to be changing the order of these articles before the meeting in order to try to figure out how to expedite. We're going to put the most topics of most interest up at the top and the easiest ones to pass at the bottom for COVID, etc. So they may be a bit out of order as compared to previous years, but we are trying to get people safely through the process. Just FYI. So if you're looking for the same article number later, it's probably going to be different.
And will you send out the warrant to everybody though? So we'll have the right
100%.
numbers.
I'm waiting for tonight to finalize what's going to be on there for sure and the amounts. And then once that's done, I'll do a final copy and then we'll be locked and loaded, ready.
Mike, this is Jack. I think in the lower right there, if you use the slide, you can move it from 62.
Yeah. Let's see. I just had to open up the. Is that
There
a
you
little
go.
bit better?
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
So Article 17 is the land bank.
Or it's the community preservation money, and it's just dividing it up into the categories, and we're changing it. We usually did it in November, but we want to do it at the annual town meeting because we don't get the information to the last minute in November. So that's a change, but not a big deal.
Okay, so just 17 talking about land bank. Okay, so it's not land bank, it's
Community preservation funds.
CPA money. So
Mhm.
where it says source name, Kim, this should be, and I realize this is kind of a work in progress. Should we change this?
Yeah, yes, I probably already changed it. It doesn't actually have a source. It just goes from the different buckets when they do the transfers. So it doesn't
Right.
have a dollar amount.
But this is, right, but when it asks for the source name, the actual source is the CPA funds, right?
Yes.
That was money that was given to us, rebates and grant by the state.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, I'll stop making noise so you can talk.
Me too. I'm gonna mute mine.
Yeah, I mean, that's it on that article, unless you have questions.
So just so everybody understands, this is like you said, the money goes into the different buckets,
Yep,
and that's what 17 does.
yep. And the land bank should say CPA accounts, where it says land bank, source name, yeah.
And then each one of the next, the 20,000 for affordable housing, 102,055 for the fund balance, 92,700 for budgeted reserve. Can you just talk about those?
Yeah, so 18 is 20,000 for the affordable housing director position. 19, well, that's Article 19 now, is to pay off the police station debt. Article 20.
That's the portion that's being paid by CPA funds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The historical preservation part of it. Article 20 is the FINO payment, and that's our last payment. So I assume it's the town's last payment too towards that.
And have you guys already, now what about, it says Article 25 is historic. What is that?
Yes.
Is that earmarked for something specific or just various projects?
It's restoration on all the cemeteries that are listed, and it's from removing dead trees to fixing walls to fixing gravestones, and that's going to be like $40,000 to $50,000, but we don't have an exact number right now.
Okay. And the point of this, obviously, this is just for the edification of everybody on the FinCom, that your committee takes this money that the state gives to us and gives back to us and allocates it. And then our only job is to look at it, because we're supposed to look at all the financial articles and just, say that we support it or not. But your committee has already decided how to, or is deciding how to spend this. And that night you'll be there to answer questions and explain, right?
Yeah. And like the historical commission will talk about the articles that deal with the historical aspects. And I mean, we'll be there to answer questions on CPA, but.
Mhm. And this money is off budget, so to speak. I mean, it's from a different source, right?
Correct.
Can you just, what were the numbers this year about how much they gave back to us? We talked in previous years that it's always been a good deal, but it was much better when there were less towns and cities involved, but there's more involved now, so there's less money. Or has it kind of gotten better again?
It picked up because they increased the fees at the registry, and also the state put money into the accounts. I'm just trying to look up how much we got this year. Sorry, I'm just waiting for it to open.
It's always slow when you're standing there waiting
Yeah.
for it to open.
I also, my second screen isn't working, so it's kind of awkward here. Let's see. So this year, we received $350,000, almost $354,000 from the state. No, wait, sorry. No, we received $229,000. And the town put in through a surcharge $350,000. So it's not quite a match yet, but it's much more than it had been in previous years.
So that's great. So it's almost double what the surcharge was, right?
No, it's less than what we put in, but it's we put in 350,000 and they gave us 230,000.
Okay.
So it's less than a match, but it's a good chunk of money, and it
Well, two-thirds.
you know,
It's still pretty
adds
good.
up. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So let's see. And then Article 26, there was a study done on the beach for landscaping and drainage issues. And so this is to fund some of that engineering study. And it's around, I think it's $10,000. Is that what's on there? On Article 26?
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
I-
I'm trying to go back. I don't know if this is. Let me open up a different document.
I'm talking and I'm muted. And do you need 25 and 26 or am I cutting one of those?
25 and
20
26.
No, 26 and 27. You don't need both, right?
26.
They're the same.
No, well, at least in the warrant article, I have 27 is about a bylaw change.
Okay, so 26 right now is the beach. It says to see if the town will vote to transfer some of money from community preservation accounts to fund drainage and site improvements at the Minden Town Beach or take any action.
Right.
Okay, that's 26. 27 says to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money from the community preservation account to fund the installation of infrastructure for beach drainage and landscaping improvements at the Minden Town Beach, 45 Taft Avenue.
Yeah, it sounds like it's duplicated.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so which one are we leaving on? The one with the address? And it's because just I don't want to limit
so.
Drainage.
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, I would, as long as it talks about the beach drainage and the landscaping improvements.
It does. That's exactly what it says. So
Right.
I can delete 26. Good.
What is the number?
The number is 10,000. But Dan Byer would have the final number, but it's around 10,000
Okay.
for the beach.
All right, good. I'm going to delete this one. Okay, great.
And you're saying that 26, we can just,
Yep, we got a couple of duplicates on here.
okay. So as we're going back up in 25 CPC historic, that one was 50,000, right?
40 or 50, but it's not quite set yet. And they also have 10,000 set aside for the old cemetery. So I'd like to use that money towards this.
Okay.
So that would make it 40,000. But
I'm just going back up here. So an article, I know I'm jumping around, I'm sorry, but Article 17, where it talks about the buckets.
Yep.
So we don't have a specific dollar amount. You're just talking about percentages.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have a dollar amount by the annual town meeting, and I could pull numbers together sooner than the annual town meeting, and I'll pass that by you.
And what we'd like, if possible, we'd like to be able to take a vote. We'd like to do it next week, because the following week, which is the 14th of April, we need to have the hearing. because it's got to be 2 weeks before the meeting.
Sure, I can do that.
If possible, I'd like to have all the numbers locked down so we can, get those numbers figured out next week, and then we can do the hearing. And then we've got, we've got some time that way. We're not up against it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's going to be an estimate. And then you give your best estimate. That's what the state wants. And then if any numbers need to be readjusted, you do that in November. But because we don't know how much money the state's going to give us. So we will do our best estimate. But this is only money that we're putting in the buckets of money that's coming in next year. So, it's money that is going to be in the CPA accounts. It's not, yeah.
Okay. 19, 120. Drainage, and then I think that's it for your numbers, right?
Let me look. I was just going to say that the number that would get divided in those percentages, it would be around, I think it would be around $500,000 around that range.
It's the surcharge that we accumulated plus the grant the state gave, right?
Exactly. Or what they we're projecting what they will give us. And so that's why the state says just to, take your best guess. So wait, I just want to make sure that those are all the articles.
Yeah, because usually we start with the buckets, right? And then
I think that that isn't that in that when you have those 10 things that automatically get voted, it could be put in that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it could be put in that. I mean,
That's
I have a
thing we're going to move to the end of the warrant.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have like transfers of money from one account to the other, but I don't, it's not spending it, it's just moving it. Oh, well, there are two other, they're not CPA articles, they're land use. And on my warrant, it's Article 30. I don't know what it is on yours, Kim.
Okay, I have.
But it's marking the borders on Inman Hill Conservation Area and houses along Inman Hill Road.
So it's 31 on this chart.
31, okay. And that will come out of the land bank.
Let me just back up because I'm looking here just to try to go sequentially what's here. 27 says transfer sum of money from the survey of 79 Millville Street account back into the Mendon Land Bank. So we're putting money back in.
Yeah, what happened was we set aside money for this survey, and so it was in a special account. But when the bill was paid, I pulled it directly out of the land bank when I should have taken out the special account. So I'm just taking the money that's in that special account and putting it back in the land bank. Does that make sense?
Yes. Do you know how much it is?
$600.
Okay.
Wait a minute. What article number was that?
I have it as 29.
Okay.
But 28 is missing now. I mean, of course, these are only money articles, so that's why this document, there are other ones with bylaws and different things that are not in right now.
I think it was $600.
All right. Well, we'll use a placeholder and we'll fix it. Now we're talking about 30 historical documents held by the Historical Society.
Yes, and that is going to be around $5,000.
All right. And all right, we just talked about Inman Hill Wildlife Conservation. That's
$2,850. And I'm still waiting for an estimate on the survey along George Street and then the Gaskill Meadows Conservation Area. But I'm guessing it would be like around 1,500 in that range.
Which one is this for?
It's
The town hall?
Article 31 on mine. What is it on yours, Kim? It's George Street, Gaskill Meadows.
Inman Hill, I don't see, let's see.
You don't see the Inman Hill one?
I see the Inman Hill one. Yep.
Okay. There should be one to mark the borders along the private properties along George Street that abut the town-owned Gaskill Meadows Conservation Area on 32 George Street.
I'm looking to see if it's further up.
They were right next to each other on the last warrant I saw.
You see it? Not on here.
Mm.
Not on here.
I
Well,
have it on the warrant as 31.
Yeah, I somehow, I'm
all right.
not,
Like I said, I have 31 as,
Right.
but
Yeah,
you know,
we're
I'm
going
not-
down from having about 43 articles to potentially having 37. So things are shifting.
no, I'm just gonna, I'm not even gonna put a number on it, just put a, and you said this is, and it's for George Street?
it's for 32 George Street. And it's marking the one part of the boundaries on the open space there.
It's not in this copy that we're looking at.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know why.
And how much is it?
I would say, I'm waiting for the estimate, but I would guess around 1,500. 1,500.
And this is going to be out of the land bank.
Yes. As is the Inman Hill one is out of the land bank.
And how much was the Inman Hill one?
The Inman Hill one is $2,850.
So we don't have an article number for,
Kim might.
okay,
I think Kim said it was 31. Is that what you said, Kim?
No, it's not.
That's
Not
Inman
on
Hill.
what we're looking at.
Right. It will be, well, again,
It'll change.
It's line 50 in here. This document is the working document is what I'm going to use to, create the articles that we read at the town meeting that I will give you, Jean.
okay.
So this, so I'm, there's 3 or 4 different documents out there that have spreadsheets but this is going to be the document that I will use, this is what we're going to vote on, but next week, when we'll be ready to vote on this because the select board has already done this. So we're doing a first pass now. And I just want anybody that has any questions, please feel free to interrupt me and just ask them. But I wanted to get Ann's articles done first.
Yeah, that's good, Mike. I just want to clarify, next week, when we go to vote, we're gonna have the real warrant
Correct.
to look at.
Well, what we're
What we're looking at
actually,
now is not the real warrant.
no, this is not right. What this is kind of a discussion and information.
Right.
But next week, there will be a document, and what we're actually going to be voting on next week, Mike, is the funding sources and the funding amounts.
Right.
So we'll be, and ultimately, I mean, by the way it works, right, is the different committees, whether it's the CPA or the board, or it's the assessors or whoever else are saying what they want to do. Obviously, this document is we're going to vote to make a recommendation on amounts and funding sources. So that when we get to the town meeting on May 8th on the field, we have all the numbers down there. So we'll read this to tell the people what it is that, what money we recommend they spend from where and for how much. But you're right. Next week, we will have the document in there, but I find it's much easier because it's really tough to get your head wrapped around all of this all at once in one meeting at one time. So I wanted to, they just kind of wrapped this up last night. So I wanted us to be able to talk about it tonight. And the reason I postponed it last week is because we were, we weren't where we are now. So I didn't want to waste everybody's time. So.
By next week, I can get you most of the numbers also. So Kim, when are you going to share the warrant so we'll know what the numbers are?
After once they okay the highway stuff tonight, I'll know how many articles we actually have, because I can pull a couple, and the board's vote on Monday was if FinCom agreed to this leasing thing for highway that we could pull a couple articles. So then I'll be able to reorganize them and the warrant will be done. I mean, the articles are done. The language has already been reviewed by town council. It's ready, just needs to be organized. It doesn't actually go to print until the 16th. So, we'll have we could have the final warrant essentially Wednesday. I could have it tomorrow. I mean, we just gotta get through tonight and hopefully that I can start getting some of these ones off of here. We've got 4 I'm anxious to delete, so.
Okay, I just want to see it before you finalize it to make sure that all the articles are on.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, it doesn't go to print until the 16th, so we'll send it back out.
But I think we've covered your articles now, Ann, right?
Yeah, I think so. Any questions? Okay. All right. Well,
All right,
if you have any questions in the meantime, just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, Kim, can we talk about the highway equipment leasing next?
Sure. So we didn't have a capital committee this year, but you guys are going to be familiar with Alan's requests from the previous years. He had submitted 4 capital requests in his budget this year. $40,000 for fleet radio upgrades, $60,000 for a new pickup that's a replacement of a 2016, which is being transferred to the fire department. He needs to replace a heavy duty, a 1993 plow truck, which is about $188,000. And he's been talking about getting this sidewalk trackless device with snow blower for 7 years, well, at least as long as I've been here, and that's about $181,000. And so, Mike, can you switch to the second sheet, the transfer analysis sheet, just quick? So just quickly to try to take you through this a bit. Let's start at the bottom, okay? These are your funding sources. It's what we have available to spend on any of these particular articles, okay? And if you start at the bottom, you see FinCom reserve, and we get about $45,000 in there, all right? And then free cash, which is what we're going to be talking about now, we certified at $562,000, all right? So that's really what we have to spend from. We also have stabilization up here, which is at $980, and we've got CapEx, which is at $198, which is just abysmal, but I'll get to that in a second. So, Alan's requests have come in. They're pretty urgent. Obviously, we really, because of the financial situation we're in this year, next year, potentially, we only have $200,000 in CapEx, okay? We only have the ability by bylaw of the town to put $100,000 in CapEx per year. So we were either going to have to spend all of free cash, essentially buying this equipment, leaving nothing in a reserve for a rainy day. So the fire chief just successfully worked with a finance company to get his ambulance and the new fire truck and his new personal vehicle for the department. And so he ran the idea by, and they went to 2 different financing companies, but ultimately we were able to get a lease price for 8 years for the 2 biggest pieces of equipment that Alan needs replaced, which is the 188 for the heavy duty plow truck and the 181 for the trackless with the snow blower. I sent you guys the details of that paperwork sometime last week. It's in your email somewhere. This is so new that we brought it to the board Monday night. They said, yes, sounds good. If the FinCom says it's good, let's do that, because the annual lease payment is about $52,000. And you may recall, I know I talk fast and I talk a lot of numbers when we're doing these budget meetings, but one of the things I was advocating for was creating this capital replacement reserve within highway. And I wanted it to be around 100, but it ended up being around 56. So technically this lease payment will fit within that 56 that I already put in the FY22 budget. So it's already in there. So we can lease these two pieces that he needs, not deplete CapEx, not deplete free cash. And it's already in FY22. We don't have to add anything at this point. So that's, if that sounds reasonable, what we'll be able to do, like I said, is remove that article right from the warrant. And basically this just becomes part of a budget decision for the budget that we approve at the hearing. So that's good news in a year when we don't know what's going on with the financial future. I will point out while we're talking about this, on the bottom of the screen, I know it's small, but just as a reminder about the stabilization and CapEx, okay? So I always put this little note on here so you can see what it's supposed to be, right? So from our long range financial plan, those targets that we had that were like, I don't know, 8 years ago now, maybe, there was this, we wanted to have about 5% in stabilization, 5% of the overall budget, okay, in stabilization, and 3% for CapEx. So that means that our target, based on our FY22 budget, our target for stabilization is $1,060,000, right? And our target for CapEx is $636,000. So you can see this current column. This is what we currently have in each of those accounts. 980 in stabilization, which is pretty good. I mean, right? 198 which in CapEx, which is terrible. Okay, here's the shortfall for both of those of where we want to be. And then we haven't talked about the transfers into these yet, but the recommendations that I have on here for the amounts that we will put in stabilization and CapEx. So we'd actually be over our target for stabilization. I hate even saying it out loud. It seems like a jinx, but it's true. We'd be over. So we'd end up, I'm recommending $200,000 go into stabilization. And then unfortunately, I just referenced, we have this outdated bylaw from 2004 that says when we created the CapEx account, that we were not going to put more than $100,000 in there per year. So at that rate, we'll never catch up. I mean, but this would have been a great year to really put all this money into CapEx, and we can't. We're bound by only putting $100,000 in there. So I'm already working with the town clerk so that next ATM we can petition to get that changed and get those amounts lifted so that we can actually build a reserve there. So that's
the reason the selectmen didn't just put that on there this time?
We didn't know. Well, I thought the limit was 150. And based upon these numbers, even we hadn't talked about it then. I really just came to light again today because at the time I thought we were going to be expending almost all of free cash on Alan's requests. And so there really wouldn't have been much for CapEx at all. We basically couldn't put it in because we're already spending it on capital equipment. But now we're in a different position, and I thought it was 150, checked with the clerk, it's actually 100. And so here we are. So if you want to go back, and I have a couple of other articles just to match these numbers. So then all these, maybe it'll all jumble together.
Well, I just would like to think, I'd just like to solicit everybody's thoughts at the idea of leasing this equipment. I mean, we've been talking about him getting this snowblower device at least for 3 years. And I don't know how else we're going to do this. And forward going, it's only going to get worse if we don't make this.
What's the cost of that sidewalk snow blower?
181,800.
So $181,800.
Yes.
Can someone tell me how many miles of sidewalk we have?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Alan.
Yeah, he's not on the call.
And the new plow truck, how much is that costing?
It costs $188,072.
And can anybody tell me how many miles of road we have in town?
No, but the note he wrote here is it's a replacement for our failing 1993 International. The body of the truck is rusting terribly and it will not pass inspection.
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm trying to make a comparison here. We're spending $180,000 plus for the truck, and I believe we've got quite a bit of road.
Last I knew it was 17 miles.
Approximately 17 miles of road.
In Mendon, I think it's more like over.
Well, again, the comparison I'm trying to make is we're spending quite a bit of money for sidewalks that nobody can tell me how much sidewalk we have. A mile, 2 miles.
If I recall, it's more than just a sidewalk machine. I believe it's to cut brush as well on the side of the road.
Thought we had a brush hog.
We have a brush hog. I don't know if it's worn out. I think this can do it as well. But the important thing to know is we don't right now, we don't have anything to plow, to do the sidewalk on North Avenue, on Maple Street. And now if, depending on where else he wants to use it or where he could do it, we haven't really been socked as bad as in previous years, the last few. But if we do, the problem is right now he has no way to clear the sidewalks except ride the plow up right onto the sidewalk. And in some places he can, but most places he can't,
So is this a lease to own?
Yes.
Yes.
So it'd be 50,000 per year for 8 years.
Yeah, 52. I just forwarded the document again so you can all take a look at the rates.
And is this inclusive of insurance?
No, we would still have to carry insurance on it. The only newer piece of equipment would be the trackless. So we'd have some increase there.
So do we know what the increase of insurance between a 1993 and a 2021?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of we just put a new one on last year and I feel like the impact was about 1,500. I don't know at all about the trackless, about what insurance it would be on that. I did text Alan and try to get him to call in, but.
Yeah, I tried to.
Okay.
And so refresh my memory, didn't he have like 8 devices that he was looking to replace?
Yes.
Is that right?
This year he submitted 4 capital requests. 3 of them are on here. There's still another one in an article, and then he wants radios too.
Right. And based on that, these were the 2 most pressing.
Yes. And then 1 truck he has.
And how would that truck be paid for?
That truck I put on the warrant because it's $60,000. So I said we can take it from free cash or from CapEx, your choice. Same with the radios.
I mean, one advantage with the low interest rates right now, I mean, it is a good time to make an investment like this, I believe. I mean, interest rates have already started to creep up. So that's one advantage. I mean, the pickup truck, so he doesn't actually need a pickup truck. It's the old one. It's not that old. It's going to the fire department.
He's replacing this. He was replacing a 2016 Ford F-250 pickup, and that one's going to be transferred to the fire department, and he's going to get the new truck.
So my question is, why does the fire department need it? Because he doesn't actually need it because it's not a very old truck. That seems a little. I mean, in this time, it seems a little. I mean, quite frankly, maybe unnecessary. I don't know.
It's hard to know without the details.
If he needed it, that's one thing. But it sounds like a piece of equipment we're adding to the fleet in the general town, which is going to add insurance to next point.
I mean, I'm sure Chief Kessler would respond if we asked him. He's incredibly prompt.
Right. I understand that, but it seems like we've bought quite a bit of equipment for the fire department already.
I feel, my personal feeling is that buying these 2 large pieces of equipment that he's been asking for a number of years is making a significant step forward in that department.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not,
So
yeah. So
that's, if
I would
anything
tend
else
to-
happens, that's, you know.
So I guess I would tend to agree with the large pieces. It's the pickup truck, even though it's not a large amount, it's still 60 grand. It
Mhm.
seems like a nice to have to me without any extra information here.
Is there any value in the equipment that would be retired? Because of this,
We don't-
I'm not keeping the other old equipment, right?
We
No.
don't have the trackless, and the truck is worn out beyond its useful life.
Right, and that would be retired,
Correct.
sold as scrapped. We wouldn't be maintaining another 1993
Correct.
truck.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's not
Does
able to.
everybody remember the explanation there when Alan talked to us 2 weeks ago? The truck that he wants to give the fire department, they're gonna take the utility body off of it, and because they saved the regular body, put it back on, give it to the fire department so they can have a pickup truck. And he wanted to buy a 1-ton
Well, very quickly, what
cab and chassis and put the mechanical side.
about the bed off, putting utility body on the truck? Is that the plan?
Yeah. But a few years back, he got rid of a 1-ton truck because he said it was useless.
Has about a little over 25.
Hang on a second. I'm having.
Repairs that it needs to have.
Kessler.
Say that again, Bill. Bill, can you start from the beginning? I got you on speaker so everybody can hear.
Okay. So the truck that the fire department has, it's a 2000 or maybe a 2001 pickup. At the last inspection, state inspection that we had, the inspector kind of said, hey, I let it go this time, but you got a lot of rot that may need to be replaced very soon. I got an estimate besides having to replace doors and there's some mechanical work. It's a little bit north of $2,500. And so I'm just in that spot of, do we put 2,500 plus into a 2001 vehicle, or was there an option to do something different?
I think.
didn't wanna-
Well, are you talking about the plow truck?
Yeah, it's a pickup truck that we use for plowing our lot, and we use for shuttling equipment.
No, he's
needed.
talking about the pickup, not the one that's in the lease agreement. Right? You're talking about the $60,000 one.
Right. So when I was looking at our pickup truck, the option to replace it with a new truck, I didn't feel like I could justify to the town spending $50,000 to $60,000 on a pickup truck just for the fire department. So I talked with Alan, and Alan has a 2015 or 16 pickup that he could give to us if he was able to replace it. So rather than the fire department having to replace it, getting a brand new pickup that's not going to really get used a great deal, I suggested to Alan, and he was okay with it, that we take his old pickup truck. He would remove the utility body that's on there and put the bed back on, so it would be appropriate for us. And then the new pickup truck would go to the highway department for their vehicle replacement process.
Now, and I guess part of the question we're asking is, if you use a truck to plow your lot, would it just be, is it possible to put, maybe it's not practical to put a plow on his utility truck and use that and just retire your truck and not have reduce the number of trucks, or does that not make sense?
I mean, the plowing is a small part of what we use that for, and if the highway wants to plow our lot, that's fine. But we also use that truck for after fires, moving hose or moving equipment, either out to a drill or, for an incident. We use it in responding out during storms. as another vehicle rather than putting the big truck out on the road for downed wires that we need to babysit while we wait for National Grid to come. We send the pickup out. So it's not just the plow truck, it's a utility vehicle.
All right, so what we're saying is that we actually, the pickup truck you have is beyond its useful life, or it's expensive to fix. It's more expensive to fix it than just to make the swap with Highway and give them a new truck that they're going to have to replace eventually anyways.
Right. I was just concerned about putting over $2,500 into a 20-year-old pickup truck. And if Alan's looking at, he's got a 5-year-old pickup truck now, that if we were able to just replace that for him and they get a newer truck and we'll just take his old one, I can get 10 to 15 years, not that I'll be here that long, but 10 or 15 years out of his pickup.
All right, well, thanks for the explanation, and you can, I'm sorry to pull you out of your own FinCom meeting in Uxbridge.
No worries,
But-
this one's more important than Uxbridge.
Well, don't tell them that, but thanks. I don't disagree with you, but don't tell them that. All right, thank you, sir. All right, bye. All right, does that answer everybody's question about the truck and why the musical chairs?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay, so I'd like to be able to take a vote now on agreeing with the selectmen to do the lease, recommending the lease, versus depleting everything out of free cash to purchase this, because we couldn't do them all three anyways.
Are we going to vote individually on the things that need to be leased, or is this just a one lump thing that we're voting on?
Well, I guess, Kim, the question is, you're saying the selectmen are making the decision, but they want the FinCom's recommendation on the lease.
Yeah. It's right. I mean, it's an expenditure. I mean, it's in the budget, so that it's it's in the payment for it's in the budget now, right? And they could execute it, but it definitely, and the FinCom should say whether or not you think we should expend free cash or put it in the operating budget. But keep in mind, it's only the two big things. The 60,000 is a separate article.
Right.
Entirely.
That's a separate article that we're gonna we'll vote that next week. So right now it's the dump truck and the trackless unit for the highway department, and it's the lease versus just outright purchase it and deplete free cash, right?
Right.
I mean, I think looking at the analysis, 8 years out, 2.83%, that's probably going to look pretty nice in 8 years, that interest rate. So I would say the 8 years is definitely the way to go.
Okay, so that's Norm. Nick, what do you think?
I would tend to agree with Norm, but not knowing the other articles, it's hard to kind of say in total.
Exactly.
Not having a complete list of everything, it does seem like a reasonable way to kind of fund some equipment that we need to do, but it's hard to say without seeing everything else.
I don't have a problem with the funding mechanism. What I'm having a problem with is I understand the need for the plow truck, but I don't understand the need for to spend that kind of money on a sidewalk. So I don't agree with buying that sidewalk machine. That's a lot of money for a couple of miles of sidewalk. You can go down to Home Depot and get the biggest snow blower they got and pay a kid $15 an hour each storm to run down the sidewalk with it and not do any damage to anything.
So just a question, are we only plowing the sidewalk in front of kind of town facilities, or is this in front of houses?
It's the
I'm not
sidewalk.
sure. Nobody knows.
It's a sidewalk trackless with snow blower, V-plow, and flail brush mower. So it does multiple things.
Right, but just so we're clear, talking with Alan in the past, this is the piece of equipment that he wants to use to do the sidewalk that goes from the corner of North Avenue and Route 16 up North Avenue up to Misco, and also to do 16, you know, is wherever there are sidewalks emanating from the center of town. So it's more than just a couple of miles. And it's not something that you can get a high school kid to do for $15 an hour. This is something that his staff would use, and also would be to clear brush.
And it's not the responsibility of the property owner to clear the sidewalks in front of their houses?
What do you mean?
Is it the responsibility of the property owner to clear the sidewalk that's in front of their house?
I don't think we have a bylaw that states that, but some cities and towns enact a bylaw so that it shifts the responsibility.
There might already be a state law to that effect.
And I'm not sure about the state law.
Nick, do you know about that? I remember reading something about that.
I don't. I know some towns do require the property owners to clear the sidewalk as part of their responsibilities.
We don't have anything to that effect. And Alan had, you know, there was one at one point. I think he had gotten from Kevin Meehan. I think he was using, but it's, you know, it doesn't work anymore.
Maybe Kevin could buy us a new one.
Oh, I know I was told when our development was going in that, and there were a lot of issues with the sidewalks, that the homeowners were responsible for clearing off the sidewalks. I don't have a problem if we're talking about something that's for the town hall, et cetera. But given the current events, given the current political climate, I am not inclined to support this particular purchase. I understand this has been a want and a need for a while now, but given the other stuff that has to be cut, I personally am not in support of this. I would support the dump truck, but not the trackless unit. And since we're voting on both, my vote would be no.
So just out of clarification, does anyone know how the school clears the sidewalks at the school? That's something
They do it themselves.
Do they have a
They
unit?
They pay somebody to do it.
Oh, but they don't have a unit like this.
We need Alan here.
Yeah, you know what? We're not going to talk about this anymore now.
Okay.
We're going to talk about it next week, and I'll make sure Alan is here. But the point is that selectmen are going to make a choice. But if I'm understanding, and Jack, I haven't heard you weigh in, but is everybody else in agreement that if we're going to do it, it would be a lease, but you don't believe it's a good idea to lease the trackless unit, but it would be a lease for the dump truck snowplow.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, all I really need to know, what doesn't matter which things you want to fund right now or not, is that if we're going to fund any of them, of these two, it's going to be in a lease and not, I don't need an article for it on the warrant. That's all I need to know at this point. We can make Alan come to a meeting and justify his request again.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yes, I agree. A lease is preferable
Yeah,
to
I just need to know that
purchase.
so I can do the clerical cleanup. Okay.
All right.
I believe there still has to be an article if we're gonna lease it.
Well, that's only if
item.
well, it's only if only if it's in the FY22 budget. This is actually coming out of FY21 monies.
No, it's gonna be, the funding for this, the 52,000 is in the FY22 budget, which will be in Article 4
Right.
as part of the budget.
But it doesn't need to be a separate article because it's going to be a lease.
No, just like we do for the ambulance or for the patrol cars or for any of the cars that we have that are on, those are all leases.
Right, but it doesn't have to be a separate article. It's in the budget.
Correct. The funding source will now be the operating budget.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike, this is Jack. apologize. I guess I was on mute. For all the questions that have been raised here, I think I agree with the consensus here, which is, to hear from the folks who are sponsoring these, I think would be invaluable, so we can not speculate on, what we think. I think they're all reasonable and fair questions, and makes sense to probably hear directly from folks on this, and so we can be in a position to support it or not, based on the explanation that we receive. It sounds to me like, there are a fair number of questions out there that are, reasonable, and either they're good answers to them or not.
All right. You know what? We're going to, I think we're going to adjourn our meeting for tonight. I will have Alan, make sure Alan is here next week, and we will rehash that budget question, and then we'll also go through the rest of the articles. Can everybody make it at 6:30 next week instead of 7?
Yes.
Anybody not make it at 6:30?
Yeah.
No, I can make it.
Mike, are we going to go back to the school budget next week?
At this point, that it's already been, well, here's what it comes down to. At this point, the select board has decided we're going to level fund the school from where we were last year. And if they wish to, if the school wants more than that, they're going to have to go to an override. And then what our piece in all of this is to, obviously, number one, recommend the budget to the townspeople, and number two, recommend the article on the warrant for the override. But that being said, if the school, before we do our hearing, decides that, they have another way to do this without asking for an override, which to me would be, use other funds and, obviously do some cuts. And they went to the selectmen, then, we would revisit that. And we can, as we can revote our recommendation right up until before the meeting. But right now, that hasn't changed. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I do have a question about the school budget, and I'm not sure if I should hold it for next week, or can we go over that now?
Well, bring it up now. Sure, go ahead.
So as I understand, the number that's in the budget this year is the exact same number that was the budget last year plus the 2.5 override. Is that correct?
The amount that's in the budget right now is the approved budget amount that was 10.3 by the Board of Selectmen, and then the 300,000 that was the override. So their budget is 10.6. So they are getting an additional 300,000. Basically, they're keeping the override
From last year.
Yes.
And I tried to go through the budget to look at what contractual increases are part of their budget, and try to suss out a number for my own kind of decision making on this, or at least point of view. Like, what amount are they forced to increase from last year to this year versus kind of discretionary spending, adding teachers or deciding that they're going to buy a new computer? What do they need? What are they forced to increase from last year?
Easiest way to think about that is looking at what our minimum local contribution is, right? That's required. And then what our debt is. Everything else, operational additional, is exactly as it sounds. It's operational additional. Now, they may have employment contracts and other contracts in place that exceed those limits, but if they don't have the ability to fund those, then cuts get made. That's how that goes. Contracts get renegotiated.
So do you happen to know what the total dollar amount of those is compared to last year, this year?
Well, in that one presentation that we went to, the only number that I remember off the top of my head was the 5.2% for the teacher contracts for steps and lanes. and something like $1.5 million, right, for personnel related increases. That's what I remember. But I also haven't gone through to see the detail because it's not sustainable. We can't pay it. I mean, I did have a conversation this afternoon with Jay. They are trying to have a meeting this week, sort of to see if the towns have any interest in using potentially this, we're calling them Biden bucks, but the money that we're getting from the federal government. But again, remind everyone, and you already know, this is one-time money that we're getting, and they're already using money from transportation, which is one-time money. So essentially, we're just making a bigger obstacle to overcome in a future year. And we are going to have a conversation with both towns about it, I think, to try to reach some sort of compromise. But as I said to Jay, and I'll tell you all again today, and I said at the selectmen's meeting a couple of weeks ago, you know, my position is go to the townspeople and ask for what you want, because if we don't have it anymore. So every year that you come back, if you're asking for anything that's over 2.5%, the town, Mendon won't have it. Upton may have it to give you, but we don't have it anymore. So if your increase is going to be 7.5% or something every single year, we can't even afford to give you the 50-50 number anymore. So that's without an override. So that's going to be an override every single year for any dollar that's over 2.5% from now until forever. Right. And so whether it's, you know, if they have the support and they want to bring it to town meeting and they have parent support and they want to fund that, then go right ahead. That's democracy in action. But
we're choosing, the selectmen have chose not to give them the 2.5% increase, but to take that and put it into the override.
So right, it's basically one or the other. They're right about the same dollar amount. But yes, normally we give them about $300,000 a year, which is half of new growth and half of 2.5. But we couldn't afford to do it this year, and their request was $900,000 anyway. So even if we did, you know, we can't make up $600,000 without doing an override. So we basically chose to keep the $300,000 and try to fund our departments. And I'll remind you, this is with us regionalizing dispatch. I mean, we lost almost a whole department in this budget. So going on like this, we are going to hit a wall that is going to be like 2011 all over again, and serious cuts are going to have to be made. And I don't think, I mean, some of them are going to be on the town side, but unless the taxpayers continue to approve these overrides for the school, they're going to be on the school side. So they're obviously going to delay that as long as they possibly can. I get it. But I feel we're all in a problem here. It's all of our problem. It's not, if we had it, great, but we don't. So,
Kim, this is Chuck.
I can see you.
I think your recollection is right on the items that were identified by the superintendent and by Jay Beyer, on including the steps and lanes, Nick, on what they anticipated they were going to need in order to meet those anticipated obligations. I have a recollection that the actual contract for the teachers actually enjoyed a 1-year extension, so they're anticipating a brand new round of negotiations.
Correct.
And then the other item in there that I think they would, at least off the top of my head, that was identified as like something that was like out of their control was an increase in special education due to
out of district tuition.
Right.
Yeah.
Out of district tuition. Also, we have to pay for any kids that go to Norfolk Aggie, plus there's transportation. I mean, I empathize and I understand the costs. However, we cannot continue to sustain cuts at the town level, right? Instead of the school, or cuts at the school, right? We have a responsibility to try to work together, but each year, if you're coming and saying we need $1 million more than we need last year, it's not sustainable. I have been the biggest supporter of the schools and continue in principle to support them. However, there have to be some serious, they're like, well, the threat is, well, We'll have increased class sizes. Okay, well then let's have increased class sizes.
Right.
Or, you know, you might have to pay more in athletic fees. Okay, well, if my kid needs to play 2 sports and it's going to cost $400 each sport, well, maybe he's not going to play one, right? Or whatever whatever people want to do, it puts it more into the hands of each individual family, right? At the expense of, right, other families that can't, afford those sports or whatever. So it is a very challenging situation. The issue has always been, we're not above minimum local contribution and we're not at target share. Now Mendon is over minimum local contribution and is over target share.
Right.
Over target share. So that argument can't continue to be made. Now, it was an effective argument when we also wanted to add teachers and programs. Well, we've got to be up to this target share. Now we're here. And some significant cuts have to be made. Again, if the town wants to continue to support overrides, then that's, I guess that's on them to be able to engender that support to be able to do that. My concern is town services as well as seniors, right? We have, people who can't afford to live here, right? It goes up every year. So anyway, my 2 cents.
Sorry, I started this.
No, it's fine. I actually have to jump because I have a soccer meeting. Actually, I'm president of my soccer league in my town too, and that they're making the teams tonight. But yeah, I could be on this soapbox all day. I mean, I know it seems harsh, but the analogy I was using last year is, I get it. We want to have an A+ school district, and we do, and it brings in a lot of people, and I get it, we do. But maybe we can't afford an A+ school district. Maybe we can afford a B+ school district, and that's okay. It's like, yeah, we all want to live in an $800,000 house, right? But if you can't afford to furnish the house, or you can't maybe you should be looking at 400 or 600, and that's a lovely house too, right? So, I mean, I think what's happened here is we have built this mansion, and it's great, and we love it. The problem is we can't afford it anymore. And do we want to move, right? So, and moving is hard. Making that decision is hard. And unless we get somebody else that's got to move in with us and help pay for it. So, send it to the taxpayers. I mean, maybe we're all wrong, right? And there's a lot of support out there and everybody wants this thing. And if that's the case, then great, right? Makes our lives easier. Doesn't make taxpayers' lives easier, right? Doesn't make it better for the seniors, right? But if that's what the community wants, that's what they'll get. So enough of my preaching about it. I know. All right, I have to go, guys, and I'm the one recording the meeting, so I hate to hang it up.
All right, but can I get by the way, just one thing I'm gonna say just before you hear it someplace else. I did turn in papers. I'm running for the open seat on the select board.
Nice.
Election, I guess, is May 18th. So, and one way or the other, whether I win or not, you're going to need to find a new FinCom chair. So you can all think about that.
Who wants to work with me all the time? Who
Wait a
can
minute.
do it?
What does that mean if you win or not? If you don't win, you're going to get off the FinCom?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Lots and lots of years. And well, you know what? That's my plan right now, Gene. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, bye, guys. See you next
6:30
week.
next week. Thank
If you
you.
have more questions, feel free to call me. I'll rant all day about it.
All right.